Hello, hello, and welcome to my thought on this interesting Saturday. I've been listening to Posy Parker, and if those of you who don't know Posy Parker, but her mantra is that transgender women are not really women. And as she was talking about that, and there were many things that she said that I certainly could understand. For example, if I were a victim of rape and I was in a rape consciousness raising group with a bunch of other victims, and some person walked in with a beard, lipstick, polished nails, and a skirt, uh, and said that person wanted to be part of the group, I would be uncomfortable. But most of the things she said didn't make sense to me because as she talked, I thought of my friend Shelley Bridgman. Shelley Bridgman was once Michael, and she chose to be a woman. And I need to tell you that in so many ways, my friend Shelley Bridgman is much more a woman than I am. Not that I've ever doubted my femininity. I've loved it. But I didn't feel the need for, I love being a woman. I truly love it. But I didn't feel the need to have a choice. But my friend Shelley Bridgman chose to be a woman. It was a choice. So she values it a lot more than I, who just came into the world with it. And it reminds me, although people will argue with me, of something similar to adoption. So many couples are doing IVF, and because they want their own baby, and uh, the the mantra is you can't really be a mother unless you've given birth. And I object to that also. And I'm going to tell you a story, and I may have told this before, but it bears repeating. It's about my Aunt Bess. My Aunt Bess and her husband wanted a baby, and they tried and tried and tried. And this was back in 1933 when we didn't have IVF, or if we had it, not very many people could afford it, and it was not very effective. And she wanted a baby, and they tried and tried. And when they finally figured out they weren't going to get one, that either he was shooting blanks or she was having problems, whatever it was, they tried to adopt a baby, and they were refused because they were too old. They were in their late 50s. And my Aunt Bess worked at a children's hospital. And one day she walked into the children's hospital and she saw this little baby that was being kept alive with tubes. And just a tiny little thing. And one of the nurses said, that kid's not going to last a week, and there's nothing wrong with him. We found him in the trunk of a car, and he does not respond. We've tried everything, and he just does not respond, and his body is slowly dying. My Aunt Bess went up to that little child, and she picked him up, tubes and all, and she held him to her heart, and she could feel his little heart flutter, and she stroked his shining curls, and she said, I'll take him, and I'll make him well. In those days, you could do a thing like that without endless paperwork. And within a couple hours, my Aunt Bess was the foster mother of that child. She brought him home, and she named him Bernard. And she stayed up with him all night, and she fed him with an eyedropper. And she walked with him, and when the two of them walked, it was as if they both were 90 years old. They walked so slowly. She walked with him around the block as he grew older. And by the time I became aware of Bernie Turman, he was just a lovely little kid that used to love to play hopscotch and hide and seek with me. And he liked to tell jokes and laugh. He was adorable. Bess did a miracle with that child, said my mother. She said when she was telling me this story, she said she saved him with love alone. But I want to explain to you that my Aunt Bess, who did not give birth, was more of a mother to Bernie than certainly my mother was to me. My mother resented me every day of her life. And my Aunt Bess treasured that little boy even as he grew. And as he grew old, he was a treasure to her. And I believe in the same way my friend Michelle treasures her femininity, her girlhood. And I say, thinking about all this, what right have we to deny someone the right to be the person they feel they want to be? And I don't care what it is. And I don't care if it's not forever. But for now, to be the person that they want to be, I think that's a human right. And I'm reminded of the movie A Thousand Clowns, where I always forget the name of the star who's very very famous. But he was the uncle of a young man, and he was a little boy, and he was taking care of him. And the social worker came to make sure that the situation was right with the authorities. And she said, "So I've come to see your nephew." She said, "What's his name?" And the man said, "I don't know. I'll ask him." Yesterday he was flying feathers. Today he might be Tom Tom Tom. um, it's the most exquisite, backhanded way of saying, why can't we be whatever we want to be, and why can't others respect that? Why do we have to defend it? That's the thought I'm going to leave you with today. And thank you so much for joining me.